Oh, hi! You're back. Come closer. So last time I was here, I showed you how I create seamless textures using instancing, and a fair few lovely people in my comments asked me why am I not using GeoNodes for this. And I got FOMO and a ridiculous amount of confidence in my ability to do this. Okay, please ignore the giant flatbread mesh, I am going to delete it later on. But what I want to do is create a seamless brick texture using geometry nodes, so I start by creating the elements like the individual bricks. I ended up sculpting 7 different bricks and see if I can work those up into a texture. I added them all into a collection named bricks. Now I'm going to add the plane that I will subdivide in 3 parts and I will use it for the grid. Split my screen into 2 parts so I can work in geometry nodes section here. So I have the plane that I created selected, and I'll keep the output node and add a grid node and an instance on point node in between those two. In order to use my bricks, here I just need to drag the brick collection over into the node editor, which is pretty neat. Right now, all 7 bricks are on top of each other, so this is where the absolute madness starts. Because I tried so many ways to arrange them to make them into a seamless pattern. I fiddled with the size and vertices of the grid node too, and after realizing that I just cannot compute, I decided to go with the 3x3 grid. In my defense, I reused the same 7 bricks to create the entire texture, so at least I've got that going for me. I don't know why I do this to myself. This is ridiculous. Holy sh**. Okay, in order to actually use the mesh and be able to export it, we need to add a realize instance node that will make this whole mesh real and usable. I have a bad feeling about this. Dude, I swear I'm gonna be known on the internet as that enraging person that crashes their Blender file every time. I'm really not into rage bait. Okay. At this point I was not ready to give up because I felt guilty for failing the comment section, so I started looking for solutions on how to reduce the poly count. The most obvious one is to decimate the sculpt and reduce the poly count from there, but I didn't really want to give up quality, and that is not the real problem. The problem is that for the texture I only need the center where I created my original pattern and just a little bit around, so basically I just wanted to get rid of the excess bricks that I didn't actually use. The method that I found, it's actually a very interesting one, although not really useful for my case unfortunately, and it goes like this. So because we have a grid with points and instances, we can add functions to delete instances based on their position. We need a delete geometry node and a position node, then a separate XYZ node because we only work on the X and Y axis. We can add boolean functions with greater than or less than option that can calculate the position of your geometry instances and then delete them with the delete geometry node. Now, my flawless logic here was that my original mesh is between 0 and 1, and so I wanted to delete everything outside that with a bit of margin. So I tried to delete everything outside 1.2 and minus 0.2. Spoiler, it did not happen. At this point I wanted to swallow my keyboard, so after accepting defeat I realized that it cannot just delete individual bricks because the function works based on the grid I set up, and the grid had only 3 points or vertices, which is why it was deleting an entire area. We're learning. I didn't want to leave it here though. We have to finish the damn texture. I'm just gonna delete the GeoNodes modifier. We're gonna use the holy instancing method, and we already have everything set up. We created the tileable texture here with the bricks. I set up my camera to orthographic and 4x4 meter view, so it's exactly the texture size. And we also have the 12x12 meter plan divided in 3 parts. We select the plane, go to object properties and turn on instancing with faces. Then we parent all the bricks to the plane and voila! Now you can see that in the middle there is quite obvious the geometry is doubled. I had this problem in my last video when I did this and I didn't know how to solve it, but I have since seen the light. You just have to delete the middle face of the plane and you're good to go. Then we select the plane, click F3 and select Make Instance Real, which kinda does the same thing that the Realize Instance node does. Now select all of your precious bricks, press F3 and choose Make Single User. Okay, so now I am finally able to delete the extra geometry and create a bit of plaster texture to add behind the bricks. We join everything together, then add the low poly plane on top to bake the texture on when we're finally done. I'm not sure if this video is useful to anyone because it's basically just me realizing that I have no idea how to use geometry nodes, but I also think that it's because of the type of textures I try to create, which are stylized and pretty custom. I think that the method with the grid and the instancing using geometry nodes can be very useful for procedural stuff and also for previewing and working on patterns in a non-destructive way. It gives you a lot of control. But I do think that if you have a high poly count and very varied texture, it might not be the best option. Or maybe I'm talking out of my ass. You can tell me that in the comments.